All right.
All right, we're recording. All right. Before the Ranger Creed is recited by a formation of Rangers at any ceremony, you will always hear the narrator say this. Will all Rangers, past and present, please join us as we recite the Ranger Creed? Every Ranger will stand, and as they say those six stanzas, they are transformed back to a time when they had the pleasure and the burden of this brotherhood. That feeling is hard to describe. However, it's one that never leaves you. It's a connection that spans the globe and can be reignited when you hear the phrase, "Hey, Ranger, what battalion you from?" Amongst this formation, there are Rangers that stand out. They are legends of this elite organization. When their names are spoken, people instantly have a story, and for a moment, relive it. Legends of the 75th podcast wants to capture that feeling and those stories. We want to ensure that these triumphs and sacrifices never fade away. So sit back with your favorite adult beverage and listen to the stories from the legends of the 75th. Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Legends of the 75th podcast. I'm super, super excited. We've been actually wanting to do this podcast for a while, but we had to kind of delay it. And we'll get into it as we probably talk about the episode for about a year. We delayed the episode for about a year to sit down and record it, but no big deal. The good thing is that Rangers are strong and resilient, and we never ever have to worry about that. But I have the absolute honor of introducing and bringing on to the show today Sergeant Major retired David Turnbull. He enlisted in 1984. Upon his enlistment, he went to 3rd United States Infantry Regiment, the old guard for many of you that might not know. But he also served in 2nd Infantry Division, 10th Mountain, went on to serve into 275 and also in the 75th the overall headquarters in RRD. He went on to serve in the 501st, 25th ID Joint Forces Headquarters at the National Capital. And then finally, his final assignment was the Army Combined Arms Center. And we actually ran into each other when I was actually out there for, I don't remember if it was battalion or brigade pre-command course. Some of his deployments are Haiti, Panama, Afghanistan, and Iraq. So that's just a brief snapshot. We'll dive into it as we get into the episode. But Sergeant Major David, it's an absolute honor to have you on Legends today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's great to see you, Mike. Hey, let me make a correction.
Yes.
I've been to Panama 8 times. I wasn't in the invasion of
Oh
Panama.
yeah, I actually meant to specify that. I'm
So
sorry.
I
Yeah.
don't want all the Ranger buddies calling me
Yeah.
saying,
All
hey,
right. Okay.
so I
And they
appreciate
will.
it.
And
I
they
know.
fucking will.
Yeah.
They will.
Hey,
Go ahead.
your intro, you talked about the Ranger Creed. Now I'm probably skipping ahead and stealing your
No, no,
thunder, but
good. Go.
I had, we were at the Ranger reunion in October. We had the
Oh yeah.
memorial ceremony with that. The regiment was, the battalion 275 was out there. We had everyone from plank holders to the Ranger who got out last week, and we recited the Ranger Creed.
Yeah.
And the goosebumps.
Oh yes.
It, it was, it was incredible.
Yeah.
And everyone said after, like, that was awesome. I'm like,
Yeah.
that was, you don't get to do that. I mean,
Yeah.
for guys from 74 to today, and just it was just incredible. But yeah,
I mean,
it was good seeing it as well.
the whole event was just unbelievable in
Yeah,
general. Um, but I brought out so one of the gentlemen that does a lot of stuff for Legends, he's the guy that created the graphic, he does all the podcast edits and everything else. Corey Kress, he's just been an absolute pivotal part of this organization. He came out with me to the 50th. And I told him, I said, because that was the first ceremony, the Fallen Ranger one. I said, hey, when we do the Ranger Creed, um, I want you to record it, one, but two, like it's going to move you. And I told, and I described to him, I said, because of how it's not quite the same as when we had the quad, remember with the barrack, the barracks on the side,
yeah,
like it created that amphitheater. But I'm like, if there's low cloud cover and the reverberation and the echo that it's going to create, like it'll be awe-inspiring. And I remember, kind of one of those things like you're like, crap, I hope I didn't build it up too much, and now it's like kind of a letdown, or they fuck up the Ranger Creed, which that always sucks when they
yeah,
do. But anyway, when it got done, and that was his first time ever experiencing it, first time ever experiencing, he's like, oh my God, dude, he's like, you weren't lying. That is probably one of
yeah,
the amazing things I've ever felt in my life.
yeah. It was incredible. I
Yeah.
still think about it. It's just gives you goosebumps.
Yeah, it does. It really, really, truly does. Well, Sergeant Major, if we can, I'd love to just kind of start at the beginning, and talk about, why you wanted to enlist in the Army, and then you had an interesting journey to actually get to Ranger Regiment. So how did that kind of all go down? That, I'm sure there's a story within that story. So I'd just love
Yeah.
to hear about it.
So I joined the Army, really doing 3 years, come in, do my 3 years and get out. Be the
Yeah.
first time I ever do something. My goal was to go to Germany. Figured I'd never have to go to Europe. So I enlisted, didn't do any research. I knew I wanted to be, they showed me an infantry video at the recruiting.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, that's what I want to do, of course. And then as basic training, they said, hey, you got recruited to go to the old guard. And I'm like, well, I'd stay close to home. I'm from Boston, Virginia.
Okay.
I'll do that. I had no idea. I had no idea what I was doing. So that's how I ended up going to the old guard, which was it was interesting. It probably was a good foundation,
Yeah.
learn attention to detail and stuff like that. But not what I wanted to do. That's how I end up, um, you know, trying to leave. About the same time I left, or right before I left, the 101st unfortunately had the battalion coming back from the Sinai crash in Newfoundland, Canada.
Right.
So basically building a new battalion. So a whole bunch of us put in 4187s. You submitted through S1 back in those days, trying to get there. I didn't have enough time left in service, so they end up sending me to Korea, which that's not what I was, again, not what I was doing. So that's how that happened. Um, and then,
So how did you find out about Ranger Regiment?
so I'll go back even further. I was in the reception battalion at Fort
Yeah.
Benning, Fort Moore. We were staying over at Sand Hill. This was Labor Day weekend.
Okay.
Why I shipped before Labor Day weekend, I don't know. But in the same or the next building over was 375. They stood up that October. I was there in August. They stood up in October, so they had been there. So we were coming back from the little shopette that was there, and these two Rangers come walking by, OG 107s, black berets, shine jump boots. One of them had go fasters. I can remember. I could picture it today.
I
I'm
love
like,
to go faster.
who are these guys? I want to be with them.
Right.
And so that was, the first. They were two PFCs, probably, graduated basic training a week before me, but they were
Yeah.
they were ranked. It was pretty cool to see them. That was part of the seed
Yeah.
because
The seed that was
I didn't
sown.
do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't do any research coming to the military,
Yeah.
so yeah.
So how did you kind of get your opportunity to go to the 75th? Obviously, you re-enlisted while at some point there.
Yeah, I was in Korea. I was going to get out. My wife's like, no, just go re-enlist for some place. So I ended up re-enlisting for the 10th Mountain Division because they had just started. They had
Right.
activated a year or 6 months before I got there.
Oh, really?
Uh,
Okay. I didn't know
yeah,
that. Oh, okay. I actually didn't know
86.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, 86, I think it was. They activated. Yeah, 86. I got there 80, end of 80, yeah, early 87 maybe.
Okay.
So I got there and I was in a scout platoon and full of Rangers,
Well,
full of past Rangers and Ranger qualified folks. So start hearing those stories. And, the goal was there was two goals: get your EIB and get your Ranger. So that
okay.
was, and I had great leadership. I had incredible leadership there. One was my platoon sergeant was a 175 Ranger. So I went to Ranger school, and then I was coming up on my into my time there, and called HRC, said I want to go to 275. All right, we'll put you on orders.
Nice.
So that's how I got there. Everybody said you're not going to make it. I'm like, oh, okay, well, give it a shot. We'll see how it goes.
Well, I definitely want to come back and talking about being an import, especially
Yeah,
in the 80s. So,
yeah,
talk about your time in 275 because I mean, you came in, you did you immediately go in as a squad leader or?
I did. Yeah,
Yeah, wow. Okay. Yeah, so what
yeah.
was that like? What did you have to overcome as far as that goes?
So the good news, the really good thing was, I went to RIP with a guy named Sergeant First Class Dennis Dunn,
Oh, well,
who is a true legend of the regiment. Was in Grenada. Uh, Took a little time off, went to Germany, stood up the lurch or worked in the lurch, and he was coming back and he goes, "You're going to be one of my squad leaders." I said, "Okay." So he ended up getting to Lewis probably a month before I did, I think, or he might have been up there. So I went to Bravo Company and went to be one of his squad leaders, which was probably the best thing that could happen to me. And yeah, I went right into being a squad leader.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Um, and from there, you just obviously you must have made an impression. You must have had a lot of successes. Do you think that there was any part of that kind of ties back into the foundation that you talk about with the old guard, and then the Lurse company that you had in 10th Mountain, or I'm sorry, platoon that you had in 10th Mountain, and being surrounded by Rangers? I'm sure there was probably a lot of kind of fundamentals that were bestowed upon you that helped you kind of with that learning curve coming in as a squad leader in the Ranger Regiment.
Yeah, there's a couple things. One, having Dennis done as my platoon sergeant,
Right.
and then I had two incredible team leaders, Mike, Mike Bunch,
Okay.
who ended up going to some good places in
Yep.
the military, and then AJ Knutson, who this month retired or last month retired as a colonel. Two phenomenal team leaders. Really were my left and right limits. They made sure that I wasn't going to do anything that was really stupid. Um, and then what I we used to tell NCOs that came in, because I wasn't the first, there was plenty that came after me. I said, hey, just keep your ears and eyes open. Just because your unit did something this way, it
Yeah.
might not be the Ranger way.
Right.
So you break those ties, especially when you're talking about close combat marksmanship or whatever it may be, even jumping, you know,
Yeah.
anything you're doing with airborne operations. Just because you came from this airborne unit doesn't make it the only way to do it. This is the way they do it here. And if you keep your ears and eyes open, um, you'll be okay.
Yeah.
So I
Well,
think that got me through, you
well,
know.
I think that, the truth is that applies to everybody that's coming to Ranger Regiment, whether you're an
Yeah.
officer or you're a brand new private, just keep but at the same time, uh, I think, the rank makes it difficult, for a lot of guys. And that's why a lot of guys, and that's why the saying goes, like, coming in as an import, like, your chances of success are not large. So yeah, that's
Yeah, the privates have it a little easier. They learn it one way at RASP or RIP or wherever they went through, and then they learn it when they get to the unit, and that's the one way they learn how to do that.
yeah,
You have an NCO, an officer coming from another unit. Well, I've been doing this for X amount
yeah,
of years. This is the way we always did it. Okay, that's not the way we do it here.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
if you don't make that cut, you don't drop that old way of doing something, and it might be perfectly fine, but it's not quite the way you do it there. You're gonna you're gonna be in trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a fact. Well, you were successful. You got to continue to serve and 275. So, kind of fill us in, of your path, to become a platoon sergeant, first sergeant, serving in RD.
Um, so yeah, I was their squad leader for I think 4 years, and then so I think one of your pre-questions, what was the hardest day? The Sergeant First Class list came out, and I was number 10 of 10 in 275.
Oh
So
shit.
it was, hey, congratulations, but you're not staying.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, it's not good. I just bought a house.
Oh shit.
Um, so I'm like, well, I don't, I think it was Sergeant Major Magana. I said, hey, I don't want to leave right now. I want to just let's give me some more time here because I just didn't want to leave. That's the
Yeah.
bottom truth. Uh, but one by one, the people in front of me decided they were going to go somewhere else and do other things. A lot of them had been there longer than I had, so maybe it was time for a break.
Yeah.
And I got lucky. I stayed right there in Bravo Company and got a platoon. So uh, it worked out. It worked out well for me, and I stayed there for I think I did another 3 years of platoon sergeant time, which was awesome.
Yeah. And you were
Um,
you were two Bravos platoon sergeant.
I was, yeah.
Yeah.
I
Wow.
had a couple of platoons in Bravos. We moved around a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, and then the mass sergeant list comes out. Here we go again. Yeah, congratulations, but you're not going to stay because you got all these other folks. And Sergeant Major Hall came up. I had moved over to the three shop for about 2 months.
Right.
He says, "Hey, you want to go down to RD?" Okay. Sergeant Major Hall last year. It's not like
Yeah.
what's in it for me? It's like, sure.
Yeah. Whatever
Uh,
you tell me to do, Sergeant Major.
so, and, and I really didn't want to go to Benning. It's like, or more, with Benning then. But boy, we loved it. Loved, loved being in Georgia. And I hadn't really been anywhere hot. I'd been at Fort Drum, Korea, Lewis. So I'd been all
Right.
cold weather areas. Um, Absolutely loved it. Loved RD. 25 NCOs, two officers. You know,
What's
all
not to love?
professionals. It was heaven. And then Sergeant Major Hall says, "Okay, you're about to leave." And I tried "Oh, can I stay a little longer?" He goes, "No." He was very strict. You're going to do this much time, you're going to be a first sergeant. So,
Yeah.
um,
So you got all these NCOs and all these officers that are acting like big boys, and now you take over B code 275. This just
yeah,
full of fucking wild men.
but it was good. You're right back to the same company. And
Yeah.
you see the you see the NCOs that were privates. And
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
now they're NCOs, and it's actually pretty cool. And then again, I got a stacked deck when I went in there.
Yeah.
Daryl Seas,
Yeah. You did have some amazing freaking.
Pete Rothke. I mean, come on, I had it made.
Yeah.
So
It
uh,
was Chuck Albertson wasn't there yet, was he?
no, not yet.
Okay. Yeah.
I
Okay.
don't
I can't
I don't think.
remember. Yeah. Yeah. I think we had well, okay, we had some interesting two Bravo platoon sergeants before Chuck. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you did.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about that. Um, okay, so first sergeant, but unfortunately all of us have to leave the Ranger Regiment at some point. That's just the nature of things. But, and I think, you were part of the and maybe this is just my observation, because I didn't see it, before that. Maybe I just wasn't aware, but you were really part of the senior NCOs that left Ranger Regiment and went on to be, command sergeant majors in the conventional army that were extremely successful and had a lot of very high ranking positions, so, talk about that. You did have conventional time experience, you had Ranger Regiment time, but now you got to go back out into the force and lead, learn, and inspire as best as you can.
Yeah, well, again, the damn promotion boards. All the first sergeants, myself, Doug Palliser, Matt Walker. Uh,
Sure, yep, I was talking to him.
oh, yeah, in Sergeant Randy Edmond, we all got selected to go to the Sergeant Major Academy. So, but at first we thought it was just those guys. I wasn't on the list.
Oh, okay.
Sergeant Major Roberts calls me. He says, "All right, you're moving over to HAC." I said, "Well, can I stay in Bravo Company for another year and then I'll move over?" He goes, "No, you'll do what I say. You're moving over to HAC because Inman's going to the Sergeant Major Academy." I said, "All right, I'll go to HAC." And then he calls me back about 15 minutes later and says, "Okay, now you're pissing me off. You didn't do anything. As you got selected for the academy as well." I said, "Dang, I was good staying here. I was pretty happy." But luckily, I went to the academy with all those guys. It was great. Great time, even though the academy wasn't a great time. Excuse me.
Oh, it wasn't. Yeah, yeah. Sergeant Major.
But yeah, so then I got sent to, I was supposed to go to Italy and that got changed. I ended up going back to Lewis. I was in a striker unit for a year as an officer major. Uh, and then they called me and said, "Hey, you're going to a unit in Alaska." I don't want to, I don't really want to do that. It was an airborne unit. So I said, "Okay, it's airborne. So, okay, we're close."
Yeah,
Which is a great organization. A lot of Rangers, past Rangers
yep.
were up here. So it was a good unit to come to. And I think I was here 2 months and we deployed to Afghanistan. So it was pretty fast.
Yeah. But well, obviously Alaska left a mark on you because that's where you call home now.
Yeah, that's really my wife's idea. When I retired, I said, "Okay, you get to pick," and she said, "We're going back to Alaska." So I said, "All right." Yeah. But a good choice.
Yeah, hunting
Definitely
and
a good.
fishing and outdoor scene. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, we love it up here. It's been good. It was a good choice. And my son spent a lot of time here.
Yeah.
when he really elementary school. So he was happy to come back.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Sergeant Major, before we kind of pivot here, I'd love for you to kind of just talk about, your last assignment as a CSM, serving, as an army, in the Army Combined Arms Center, and and the touch points and how big of a driving organization that is, but for the Army, but at a very large scale, and really impacts a lot of the leadership, a lot of the policies and the regulation that move the Army forward into the future.
Yeah, I mean, it was an interesting organization. Not really knowing a whole lot about what they did.
Right.
I reached out to Sergeant Major Chris Greca. He had been there,
Mm.
um, and try to find out, uh, more about it. And then, in fact, my old roommate in the old guard, Jeff Wright, was a sergeant major there as well. So I reached out to him. So small world. Chris Greca, 275 at CAC. My roommate from the old guard at CAC. It was pretty cool. But everything that TRADOC does, it's really pushed down to CAC to
Right.
implement.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yep.
and really, what I was focused on, working with probably one of the smartest NCOs I worked with was a guy named Sergeant Major Dave Davenport, who was a TRADOC sergeant,
Yeah.
who knew how to get things done,
Yes.
um,
Yes.
big time. So looking at NCO education, cutting out the junk. Let's get to the meat of what we want to teach, how we want to teach in this. So that was a big part of my uh, responsibilities. We stood up Army University, which was pretty much a nightmare from day one. It started before I got there, but I got beat up on that a lot. I think they are still working on it.
Yes, they
I
are.
think the vision is there, but they got a long way to go. But really, anything, and it's funny talking to, I got to talk to the PCC students, both brigade and battalion, and it took me a little while because I always got to talk to them. I said, "Hey, you're all looking at the 50-meter targets, and I'm looking at 3 years down the road. Some of the stuff that I worked on didn't implement until after I retired." I said, "I'm just trying to let you know this is down the road. We're changing NCO education. We're adding MLC or whatever. We're shortening this." Um, that was a big thing. We're sending people down to Fort Moore for 8 weeks when we could get it done in 6 weeks because we need to get these guys back, girls back, to get them back in the fight. So that was, part of some of the changes we made. But so talking to them, and they're like, "Hey, I'm looking out for 3 months from now." So I had to
Yeah.
really put myself in their shoes and go, "Yeah, I understand it. You're not concerned with what's going to happen in 3 years. You're worried about your battalion or brigade getting
Yeah.
ready to go down range or NTC or JRTC or something." Um, so it's pretty interesting to see it that way. Um, it was eye opening to see all that goes into how the Army operates,
Yeah.
um, and then how long it takes, and all the steps you got to go through. But
Yeah.
it was definitely an interesting assignment.
Well, Sergeant Major, I got a specific question I want to ask about that. But before we do, real quick, so we're gonna hit the pause button here. So thank you everybody for tuning in. If you want to hear the rest of Sergeant Major Turnbull's incredible journey within the 75th and the Army at large, and talk about his stories of leaderships, challenges, and triumphs, please become an exclusive member and unlock the full episode, along with more than 50 other interviews that we've done as well to date. To all of our exclusive members, hey, thank you for the support. Now let's deep dive into the remarkable experiences of Sergeant Major Turnbull.